Welcome back for another helping of oysters, clams, and cockles, bringing you the best TV shows and movies weekly in an easily digestible podcast packed with laughs by me, Ross Bolin, and my dear friend, Mr. Barrett Dudley. Barrett, what's the bit today?
I'm just redoing one from...
You're just going to reuse a past
bit?
bit?
I'm going to reuse a past bit, yeah, just because things, right now, they're just so perfectly splendid.
And now I get the joke. I'm part of it now.
Yeah.
I get to laugh at the Bly Manor jokes with everybody else.
I figured that was a good one to just rope you back in on.
Look, I got to tell you.
I would like to tell you that you just wouldn't even know what to do with the warm piss in your boot if it ended up there, and to just kick off your Lucchese's and get out of here with your G-dang bolo ties and your, but those are still going over your head, I think.
Yeah, now now I'm back in the dark again. You just 1 week ahead of me at all times.
Yeah.
I have watched a little bit of Bly Manor. We're obviously going to be discussing that today, a little bit, briefly, during what I will call Such Bits and Tid with Ross as a segmented segment of Tidbits and Such with Barrett,
Correct.
Everyone's favorite segment that we'll open with. And then, by the way, during Such Bits and Tid,
yes.
I also have a big-time recommendation for the Clam Fam. Okay?
All right.
Then it'll finally be time to close out Lovecraft Country Season 1 on HBO, which we will be discussing both the penultimate and the finale as the majority of this podcast. This episode of OCC is brought to you by Felix Gray Glasses. Barrett and I constantly have our faces in screens from morning to night, as do many of y'all. There's no cutting back in 2020. We need these things to communicate with friends and family, keep up with everybody, to do our jobs. And too much screen time can result in tired, dry eyes, headaches, blurry vision, trouble sleeping. Look, as a guy whose job requires him to stare at a computer screen all day, that loves watching television and movies on his giant TV screen, and then that loves playing video games on his computer screen, nobody is more familiar with the symptoms of how burnt out your eyes can get from screens than me, especially not having worn contacts and glasses since I was a little kid, living in Austin with terrible allergies. Contact lenses contribute to the allergy, itchiness, and all the things, the tired, the dry eyes, the headaches, all that stuff. And Felix Gray's blue light glasses have been an enormous help for me. They launched in 2016 with the singular focus of offering the most effective computer glasses on the market. With all the quality of brand name designer frames, they quickly became the internet's favorite blue light glasses. They filter out 90% of high energy blue light, eliminate 99% of the glare coming from your screens, and unlike other brands who use cheap, ineffective coatings that can chip or scratch, Felix Gray has a proprietary blue light technology that's embedded directly into the lens. They've got prescription, they've got non-prescription readers. Felix Gray has you covered with optical glasses for work and sleep glasses in the evening that are clinically proven to increase melatonin secretion when worn leading up to bedtime. So if you're like me and you like to get in a little TV before you go sleep, as you know, that can be detrimental to your sleep. So you need to wear some Felix Grays to keep that blue light out of your ojos. Why would you buy glasses from a company whose sole focus isn't making glasses? Trust Felix Gray. They make the best blue light glasses in the game. Go to felixgrayglasses.com/OCC and get a pair of blue light glasses from the pros today. Shipping and returns are totally free. That's FELIXGRAY glasses.com/OCC, felixgrayglasses.com/OCC. And now it's time for Tidbits and Such with Barrett.
Do you know how I would describe Felix Gray glasses?
Perfectly splendid.
Perfectly splendid.
And I've got to say, when you did that bit to open that episode, I was very confused about, generally I hadn't watched any of Bly Manor yet. and then when I saw the first episode of Bly Manor, and that little girl cannot, for the life of her, stop saying how perfectly splendid everything is. And then that's literally part of the storyline. You find out where she got perfectly splendid, and it's from the former nanny who's dead and now crawling around in the background.
I don't even know that.
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
What episode are you on?
Dude, I watched 2 and I haven't gotten any further.
I think I'm on 3.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to...
This is huge.
To discover, making the discovery.
It gets worse, is what I'll say. If you thought that was going away, if you're like, oh, what a funny ploy for the first episode or 2. No. The little girl, she can't stop saying it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, it's her bit, really, is what it is. It's her bit.
Yeah. If you're not laughing, you're at least getting a little smile at this point when she rattles it off for the 40th time in an episode, then I don't know what's wrong with you.
Yeah. Ross, I really, to be perfectly honest, not perfectly splendid, but perfectly honest with you, I think I only have one tidbit today.
Leaves more time for such bits.
Yes, yeah, it does. And that is that it was announced today that there are going to be 2 special episodes of Euphoria coming in December.
Just 2?
2 episodes. Now, I have not done the research on this yet, just to figure out exactly what is happening here. My guess is that something. This is pandemic related, is what I think.
Really?
I believe that they are not able to get back to filming the show yet, because California is one of the more difficult places to get filming going right now.
You're right.
And my guess is that this is some type of like stopgap that they've come up with to kind of fill in, since they probably are not going to be able to get back to filming, and then we might not see another season of Euphoria until sometime late 2021.
Okay, because
at best, probably.
I'm reading on Deadline, and it says both of these episodes that we're going to get were produced under the COVID-19 guidelines, which means that they're certainly not the full cast and crew. Obviously, what it says here that one of them is going to be the first bonus episode. These are bonus episodes. Is titled "Trouble Don't Always Last," and it's going to follow Rue on Christmas.
Okay.
Written and directed by series creator Sam Levinson. And then that's the one we got a date for, I believe.
Okay.
But then there's a second one coming. This first one will air December 6th at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah.
9 p.m. Eastern. And then the second one doesn't have a date yet.
Yeah. And this is both interesting and also exciting and also a little bit fearful, just because, we're going to see more of this over the next 12 months.
I kind of like it.
There's going to be, people are going to get creative and figure out how to, we got to put out something. We got to do something content-wise, especially for shows where, people don't want 2-year gaps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, she went on Kimmel, and Zendaya said, quote, "We might end up doing a little bridge episode. I don't really know how to describe it, but an episode that we can do with a limited amount of people in a safer environment, so we have something to live on until we are able to go into season 2.
Yeah, there we go. So I mean, you're going to see more and more of this, whether it's from TV shows like this, doing little kind of mini seasons or mini-sodes. The thing is, you have to wonder and you hope that the fact that they don't have a full-on, that they. The fact that this is new, that this is novel, that they're we need to do something. You just hope that the quality is up to snuff.
That it doesn't take away from the full-blown seasons, the full production, the full storyline. Of course, that is always the fear with one-offs. And now if you're thinking well, there are examples of this in the past, and Black Mirror. But Black Mirror's episodic. There's no connection between the two. Well, obviously there are people that make the argument that there are connections between different episodes. But I'm saying just on the whole, you could watch any one-off episode of Black Mirror and you're getting the full story.
Yeah, Black Mirror is not serialized.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So this, it's it's scary to think about that element of it in terms of how it could affect the overall bigger product, which we were obviously huge fans of, as were the critics, and they won a lot of awards. And Zendaya is sort of wait, weren't we saying it wrong? Isn't it Zendaya? I'm pretty sure it's Zendaya.
It's Zendaya.
And that we've been saying it wrong for 2 years.
Yes, I think that's correct.
Yep. No, I'm remembering now. Okay. I was corrected on this very recently.
Zendaya.
I kind of like Zendaya more. Can I keep saying it that way? Is that
Yeah, that's
listen,
not
if
nice.
you want to call me Rose, it's cool.
That's not your name, though.
It's not. It's Ross. Yeah, it's just you don't want them to slip. Or you don't want them to do something that's going to negatively impact when they do come back for season 2.
It's because it's maybe forced, right? It's they were backed into this corner. They had to come up with something. It's not going to be part of the full season. Is it going to, it's
I don't know if they necessarily needed it from that angle, because Euphoria was so impactful. It was so different that it doesn't feel like it was so long ago when I watched it and I'm where the hell is season 2? But then again, it does get tricky with them, especially because they're fucking with high school characters, man. These people are going to look vastly different in a few years if they have to wait a few years before they're able to pull off a full episode or
will
season.
They?
No.
Zendaya and Jacob Elordi and Hunter.
When you're in that 18 to 25 range, There's a bit of aging
Hunter
that goes
Schafer.
on
Hunter
in
Schafer.
that little period there where it's like you go from looking
They're
more
all
like
over 20 though.
already.
Yeah.
For season 1, they were.
Yeah.
No shit.
Oh yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, they went with the
like the dude. You're not worried about the dude looking like 35 at some point here.
No, the Jacob Elordi is 24 years old. 23.
But he already looks pretty mature for like a high school kid.
I know, which is why it doesn't matter. This is not Stranger Things.
And that's always been
where you're
the way
dealing with like actual
little bitty
puberty
kids.
and like people going from
It's not Harry Potter.
12 to 20.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
You're already
right.
20. It's like you're
Once
a young...
you've hit puberty and you've got the pubescent face that you're going to have the rest of your life, we're usually good.
Right. And I'll also just tell you, and I know this from personal experience, you're good to go from 23 to 28. It's when you start edging up on 30
that's when
that you start falling apart and looking like shit on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, you wake up that one day and you step out of bed and your knee like makes a weird noise that you've never heard before and like hurts for the first time and you're like, oh, I'm going to die one day.
Yeah, these kids don't need eye cream is what I'm saying.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
I do know what you mean.
They're fine. They're young. They're hot. They have personal trainers and nutritionists and beautiful, glorious makeup and hair teams.
They got estheticians shooting all kinds of things into their faces.
I definitely think that it's like Zendaya said, where it's like they don't want you to forget about the show. They're riding a hot streak. It was well received. She just won an award. They're like, man, we're not going to be back for 2 years. We got to do something.
And I'm guessing that they had a spectacular idea. Somebody came up with something that was brilliant because I don't think they would take this risk if they weren't like, this is a fucking sure thing.
Maybe so.
We've got this great, basically like siloed story we can attack that's not going to fuck up season 1. And it's not going to impact season 2. I would hope that they're completely separate of what we come to see. But then again, like I said, Euphoria I trust to do something crazy like this. It's scarier for me if it's like, I don't know, that was just so different. It was such an original look at like Gen Z high school life and in such a dark HBO adult way. I just trust them to give us a couple and not fuck anything up.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Speaking of weird things,
what I do like is that they are not trying to take a swing at a full season under COVID circumstances.
Now that would be very limiting.
That they're just like, we can knock out these 2. We have the ideas. We have good ideas for 2,
and then
we'll fit. We'll get back to season 2 when we can.
I'm watching another show on HBO right now that did something interesting, not COVID related.
Is this the third day?
It is the third day.
Okay, we should talk about the third day. This is a great thing to add here on Such Bits and Tid. People have been talking about the third day. It's been on the Discord. The Court is Strong. People have been tweeting about it. I have heard about it on other podcasts. I've read about it. There's all sorts of insane shit going on with this show.
It is absolutely bonkers. I am going to do a spoiler-free recommendation here.
Yeah.
The girlfriend recommended this show to me. She was like, I started watching this show on HBO. It's crazy. You have to try it. Probably the first thing she's thrown out there for me, like really putting her ass on the line. Like, you know what I'm saying? When you recommend something to somebody, and then if it sucks, and now think about if that person was a douchebag with a podcast who talks about TV and film. That's a lot of pressure to feed me a recommendation. And oh my God, she couldn't have been more like spot on. I'm a big Jude Law guy. Just in general, big fan of the dude. You and I have discussed quite a bit his sort of ups and downs in Hollywood, his sort of strange career where he was like this A-list guy in the 90s and early 2000s and then sort of faded into irrelevancy and then sort of came back with possibly the weirdest version of a show that he could have with the young Pope, and then just like he's just an interesting cat.
Yeah, he's been kind of up and down and all over the place.
And he's like a very, very unique looking type of handsome dude where he looks like he was pulled out of a fucking time machine from the Roaring '20s or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
And he's just a guy where I always want to see what he's going to do next, sort of.
Right.
And this show, which is a British-American drama television miniseries created by Felix Barrett and Dennis Kelly for HBO and Sky Atlantic. A lot of the time, that's their little HBO and Sky Atlantic, and it's fucking British, and then we get it.
Sky Atlantic is the channel that is exclusively shown on airplanes.
Is it?
Right?
No, it's the British paid television channel owned by Sky Group Limited.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was
it's just confusing because of the word sky.
And Atlantic. I haven't Virgin Atlantic sky. It's in the sky.
You're over the
Planes
Atlantic
are
Ocean.
in the sky.
You're watching the television shows.
You're watching the television shows.
Yeah.
It might be your third day of travel.
Sure.
You could go live from an airplane now thanks to the Wi-Fi live stream. There's a 12-hour live stream event. Some flights take 12 hours.
Uh-huh.
You see where I'm going? It's
do.
very confusing.
It's
very
connected,
confusing.
It's all connected. They're they serve up HBO to the United Kingdom.
Okay.
They are the, quote, the home of HBO.
Okay.
So that's Sky Atlantic.
They serve up HBO like a platter of fish and chips.
Or like
to the Brits.
Yeah, like a terrible prepackaged airplane meal to the Brits.
Yes.
Yeah, except it's delicious.
It's weird that if you're British, you can only watch HBO while you're on an airplane, though.
I know. That is a strange thing about being a British citizen.
Yeah.
You're legally only allowed to watch HBO in the air, and specifically over the Atlantic.
Right. But it is what it is, so you can continue.
Yeah. Also, it's the United Kingdom and Ireland, I should say. They also have separated channels in Germany, Austria, and Italy. Which is anyway. This is how a lot of people in the world consume HBO.
HBO, right.
I watched the third day. All right, I'm 5 episodes in. I want to say I'm past the halfway point of the season. I'm into the second half of the season, and all I can say for you is there is a distinct difference between the first halves and the second halves, and between what is the first half and the second half of the season, HBO put the third day specifically put out a live streaming performance that is like you watch it and it is part of the season that you experience, and it is. I have not watched this yet, and in fact I'm a little scared to based off of the description. Like Jude Law takes like a nap for 20 minutes, and at one point he's like digging a massive grave or something. Like
I don't know. There was some weird stuff that happened on this live stream from what I understand.
Yeah,
definitely. I'm positive that Jude Law takes a nap on it. That I'm pretty sure he does.
I know there's digging of some kind. What I'm confused about is like this isn't a thing I've ever heard of an HBO show doing. Now it might be something that you would hear like a smaller, more indie network do or something like that. But this is kind of a hilarious, crazy out there idea that they executed on. And since I found out about this after I started the second half already.
Okay, all right.
Frankly, a little concerned that if I know it's not for no reason. Let me put it that way. I know there's reasons for what he does in this weird live art performance. And I'm not sure I want those things to fuck with my head now that I'm already a couple into the backside.
Yeah, you probably, there's only 3, right? So you're probably just going to have to finish this.
And then go back and watch and see what's what.
Yeah. You're just going to have to call in sick to the podcast one day and be like, hey, sorry, I'm not feeling too well. And then you're going to have to sit there and watch 12 hours of a live stream.
Yeah.
Which is no longer live.
Honestly, it's something we considered doing for this week's episode. I drew so much inspiration from the concept that this podcast was almost just Barrett and I sleeping for a half hour and you getting to hear whatever noises come out of our bodies during that sleep period.
Okay.
And then we were going to get up and just dig and see how far we could get for the second half hour.
I love digging. Been doing a lot of digging around the house over the last 7 months. So
you know there's stuff buried in that backyard. You just got to find it.
There's got to be. Every time we start digging, actually, I'm like, this is the time. This is the time that one of two things I'm looking for to happen. I would like one of these two things to happen.
Okay.
Number one, we hit bones.
Dinosaur bones.
Bones, either dinosaur or human.
Okay.
And then, because of our discovery, somebody else has to come in and do the digging and excavate the rest for us.
And then you get to see it.
Free landscaping is what I'm really looking for here.
Okay.
Oh my God, we hit a body!
Somebody call the FBI!
Somebody call the FBI, get the FBI, and then they have to do the digging for us.
Where's the body? Look, we reburied it, but we want you to dig up the whole yard. Just be sure that there's no more.
Yeah.
Get it all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And just when you finish, will you just level it? Will you put it back level for us?
All the way.
That would be great. That'd be great.
That's a big problem in Austin for us.
Also, there was while we were digging, there was perfect brand new sod. You've ruined all the sod. We're gonna need all new sod replaced on your dime.
You've ruined the sod, Job.
Obviously, option number 2 is that we find buried treasure. But that's honestly less exciting than just having somebody do my yard work for me.
You don't want the gold.
I don't want the gold.
Okay.
Don't give me the gold.
Okay. Third day is a little bit losty. Okay. It's almost like a Lindelof show in that it starts, you're dealing with a gentleman on an island, the star of the show, Jude Law. You're not really clear on why he's on the island. They give you some like half-ass explanation that they never really fucking reference again. And then crazy, strange things start happening, and you're left to sort of figure out, what am I looking at? And from the get-go, it's shot in a way that lets you know, cinematographically, is that a fucking word?
Probably.
That this is something weird.
Mm-hmm.
That there's like, I don't know how much of it's reality, or if it's imagined, or if it's a dream, or if it's a fantasy land, or if it's purgatory, or if it's lost, the island, or if it's... You don't really know what's going on. And as the show progresses, you start to pick up the pieces and figure it out. There are crazy breakthroughs in multiple episodes where you're like, holy crap. There is, of course, an obvious breaking point in the middle of the season based on this live performance thing that makes you go, holy crap. The second half, as I'll call it, I think it's only, 6 episodes?
6 episodes, yeah.
Yeah, it's a miniseries, drama television miniseries, British-American, Sky Atlantic, that the Brits can only watch on the planes. And it's a very captivating, different show than anything else we've watched recently.
Okay.
And it's got very good character acting from Jude Law, Catherine Washington, John Daglish, Mark Lewis Jones, all these different characters. There's like 15 characters that you need to know the actors and actresses for.
Okay.
But I have not been able to turn away from this. It is part of the reason we are not discussing Yellowstone today. The other reason being that we ended up having to go 7 freaking games, literally, I think, in 7 days for the Astros, which decimated my television viewing time. And I apologize to everybody in Clamstone Nation, but obviously Barrett and I didn't anticipate having to deal with going to 7 games after we went down 0-3 and became the second team in history to force a 7-game series after being down 0-3. It was chaos and eventually heartbreaking.
Yep.
But this show is great to the point that I don't often come to this podcast with a recommendation for a television show. Usually they are provided for me from the Clam Fam, and then I go, holy crap, this is incredible, and we end up discussing at length. This is one that I'm like, if you like the shows we typically discuss and you trust me as a critic of what is good or what is not, this is great. Like, has potential to be phenomenal. I'm not done yet. I don't know how they close it. That's a big piece of the puzzle. But in terms of time invested, miniseries. In terms of the quality of what you're getting, fucking incredibly weird, super make you think the whole time. You have to focus. This is definitely not like you can be on your phone show because there's lines and things that occur. Well, I've had to rewind a bunch. Let me put it that way. Because it's just crazy trying to make sense of what you're seeing. And this is like kind of a random little HBO project, right? It's not something that was super heavily marketed or that anybody was talking about looking forward to for 2020. It's just here, and it's Jude Law, and it's been one of the best things I've seen this year. So I guess my such bits and tid for today would be, please go watch The Third Day as soon as you're caught up on Lovecraft Country and Yellowstone, as I would like to further discuss it at some point. Perhaps.
Righty-o.
If you have the time. The only other things that I have to say in such bits and tid. Started Bly Manor, love it. Been very impressed so far with what I'm watching. I think it was either you or somebody else told me that this season, comparatively to last, was being judged as less like outright scary and horrifying and more story-driven.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty much what I was saying, is that I wasn't, through 2 episodes, a fifth of the season, not really much. I hadn't found it as scary, but I still was compelled by the storytelling overall. Now, I think critics have been less kind to the show, to the second season.
And sometimes the critics are right. Sometimes, but but so far, something about the first season didn't really grab me. I didn't like the story that much. I wasn't that big of a fan of it. This one, I'm in. Yeah. And I'm watching, and I'm enjoying. So if you like, these what are they called when the seasons are broken completely separate apart from each other? Like what's
an anthology?
An
series.
Anthology. Yeah. If you like American Horror Story, if you enjoyed the first season of what was it, Haunting on Hill? What was the first one?
The Haunting of Hill House.
And now we're on the Haunting of Bly Manor. One question: the show begins with you watching a situation with a bunch of people, and then one of those people's like, "Now let me tell you a story," and then you launch into the show. Is it going to tie back to the storyteller at some point?
I imagine that it will. Yes.
Okay. I guess because just where I'm at now, I'm like, we haven't seen that lady who was telling us this story in a really fucking long time.
Now, is she still narrating at all, though?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because that's Carla Gugino.
Is she the perfectly splendid little girl or something? You know?
Who's to say?
I'm not. I'm probably somebody listening who knows and is like, no, what?
We may never know.
They may never tell us. Hell.
Anyway,
that's all I got.
It feels like that little setup there is going to come back up into play somehow.
I just ended up thinking like that would be a piece of every episode.
Yeah,
maybe they start back there.
Right,
we're just rolling.
Yeah.
At this point. Also watching The Vow, which is utterly ridiculous.
So are you finished with The Vow yet?
Not done. Not all the way caught up. I heard already. I know. I'm fully aware now of why season 2 exists.
They dropped a
massive bomb.
A big bomb. Skip ahead 30 seconds if you
don't want to know.
If you want to be somewhat surprised.
5,
they've already
4, 3, 2, 1.
They've already announced that there is a second season. At the end of the last episode, what you really find out is that this was always planned. There is a part 2, basically.
They have a massive witness that is going to...
Right, and I don't know about you, but especially for the first few episodes, a huge thing for me was like, what is going on with Nancy?
Where is this lady?
Where is this lady? How did she become involved in this? What does she know? What does she not know?
Why are we not hearing from her directly?
Or really, like, she's clearly like this very looming presence over Nexium and over the business. She's the right-hand man.
His number 2.
She is, right. Like, he's Vanguard and she is...
Whatever.
Proctor, not Proctor. That she's...
some name no one should ever call another person.
Prefect. She's also a name, like, I kept, like... This was just, like... She is the looming enigma through most of these episodes because you're not really getting any of her story. Whereas with Keith, even though he's not talking to you, he's on screen all the damn time. He literally recorded everything that happened, everything
like
that he
all
did
these
and
psychos
said,
do for some
which
reason.
is insane. And then basically the final episode drops a tease in pretty much the final frames of the finale that they do have Nancy. And that it's coming in part 2, where we are going to get to hear from her.
She's ready to talk.
And also possibly Keith, because much like Robert Durst and other sociopaths, he just can't help himself.
He can't keep his fucking mouth shut.
He's got to participate. He has to.
Yeah.
He can't not.
Yeah.
So...
Well, that's all he's got now, because he's fucked.
I'll just say, without giving away too much more than I already have, I thought that some of these middle episodes... were a little bit redundant and used a little too much filler and people on the phone and people just kind of like...
Slows down.
It slows down. 8 and 9 pick back up significantly. And then I'm like, I'm tickled that we're getting part 2 and that it will feature a person that I kind of thought of as like the most interesting piece of this entire puzzle.
Yeah, basically every single person who was like, why would you need a second season of a documentary that has seen the final episode is now like, God, I can't wait for season 2.
Yeah.
Which is an amazing feat for a documentary to pull off. Pretty amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And with that, would you like to move into our discussion of Lovecraft Country Season 1, Episodes 9 and 10?
I would, yeah.
Let's do it. Episode 9 of Lovecraft Country was titled Rewind 1921. And one of the issues that I had with the show during the first few episodes, it was difficult for me to kind of get a feel for like, why all these characters and why do I care, right? Well, the deeper we've gone, the further episodes, obviously they've done an incredible job with character development. Episodes like this one are the reason why. Because they're able to tell you that they're able to piece things together, like sort of almost as you're already watching the story take place with these characters, and then you're learning about them as you watch the story take place in a way that's sort of different on Lovecraft Country than other things I've watched. I'm not sure how exactly to put my finger on it, but it just sort of starts, and you're like here, and you're learning about this family, but there's this magic, and it's really confusing, and you're like, why the fuck do I care about the magic? And we were complaining about the Braithwaites for the first couple episodes, like, who are these white wizards? Why do we care? What the heck is going on? By the time you're in the penultimate episode, which is Rewind 1921, you've started to see that they're going to give you the bits and pieces you need here and there to connect the dots, to make sense of the story so that the things that are happening on the screen are as impactful as they should be. And an example of that I would give is just one of the more memorable scenes from this particular episode, the penultimate, when Tick is standing there with Montrose in 1921 in the past for this riot that is about to ensue, this famous social civil rights moment in history in the United States in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And he's having to watch his younger self like tell his first love interest basically to fuck off, right? And getting into that, watching him and his son, who's not his son, who he's just told might be George's son, the way all of that unfolds into this like complicated relationship where this, up until that point where Montrose is watching his younger self have to endure this crazy trauma of his basically like best friend or boyfriend or whatever getting his head blown off all over him by a racist white guy yelling two slurs at him, if I'm like a racial one and then a sexual one, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. I mean, it brought Tick back to an understanding with the man that raised him as his father, even if he's not his real father. It was just an example of it brought these characters together in a way and gives you a better understanding for both of them in a way that makes sort of a lot of other stuff you've already seen make sense, right? We keep asking ourselves throughout the course of the last few episodes, man, why? Okay, so like Tick keeps bringing up that Montrose was like a terrible dad to him, like beat him, berated him, belittled him, yelled at him, punished him harshly. Basically, is the message that we're given. Well, we find out why. We have to literally watch Montrose be beaten with a switch that is really just a fucking giant branch.
Yep.
By his dad. We get into all these pieces of these characters. It starts to make sense. Hippolyta, why did we spend an episode on her? What the fuck was that about? Okay, well, if you watch the 2 final episodes, now you know. All of that stuff comes back in a way where things that annoyed me have clicked into place. And it's taken this show from like an interesting new angle that if you're like a white guy watching HBO, you've never seen before. Mm-hmm. And it's taken it and made it into something truly unique and fascinating week in and week out. Essentially, the gist of it is this. White people have magic. White people are also racist. Over the course of their racist, magical doings, white people become intertangled with black people. Black people figure out that there is magic. Black people take the magic back and kill the white people. That is the gist of it. Now, intertangled in it is obviously a ton of historical stuff. We get deep into the Jim Crow era of the United States. We address the Tulsa riots in 1921. You have to watch that unfold. At another point, as you brought up on text message earlier, we endure Christina Braithwaite going to literally experience Emmett Till's death as he would have, minus being a small black child. She's obviously a white woman who paid 2 white men to do this thing to her. But she has invulnerability, cannot die, experiences it. We go through all these crazy, traumatic moments in American history and in civil rights history. And at the same time, it's intertwined with all this magic and fantasy, and it's fucking cool at the end of the day, the way they pulled this all off. Now, another thing I texted you before we started our show today, when we were talking about it off mic, was like, man, it's another thing that clicked for me after the finale was obviously like, this had to have been incredibly powerful for black people who have never gotten to watch a show like this before where the characters related to them.
Yeah.
Like this crazy cool adventure HBO mainstream big event show.
For sure.
That was put in, like, obviously fortuitously they were able to finish it before all this crap happened this year. It comes out during like leading up to Halloween and in hashtag Creepy Month. I mean, this it hit every nail on the head by the time it was all said and done.
Yeah, I thought both of these episodes are really good. Episode 9 was deeply affecting. Obviously,
yeah,
very
emotional. Watching that was not fun.
Anytime, this is one of like these little moments of forgotten history that is, thankfully like being brought more to light. Obviously, we've had 2 HBO shows.
As we mentioned with Watchmen, you and I weren't very familiar with it.
Right. Kind of utilize this in various ways to become part of the storytelling. So going back to the riots and like getting more pieces of Montrose's story was really, really good. There were just lots of really powerful moments about, as this family kind of starts coming together.
Yes.
Everybody. Hippolyta, Dee, Tick, Letty, Ruby, Montrose, like everybody, they each have their own storylines throughout this series, which contributed to some of the critiques that we had made in various episodes about like being so ambitious and trying to do so much, and where you kind of glossing over certain elements and pieces that should have felt a little bit more important.
Right.
And just kind of to your point, as all of these things, as all as these kind of tendrils kind of like linked back up together to and here in this moment of the Black Wall Street Massacre in 1921 in Tulsa, it was like just really, really like probably more than any episode. This is that one that just kind of ends and you just kind of feel raw, right? Like
it was tough to, especially circumstantially, right? Like, we've seen a lot of like protesting, rioting. We've seen a lot of stuff this year that when the message being like, look how much has changed. Mm-hmm. That's the craziest part about watching some of this shit is like if it happened right now, it would be the least shocking thing of all time. It's horrifying to see a piece of your country's history play out on screen that prior to watching a fictional television show you were almost completely unfamiliar with. That's weird.
Sure. Yeah. And then just to kind of start jumping into this final episode, if you want to.
Yeah, let's just wrap it all in now. We're there.
I thought it was, this whole show is, I think, very clearly trying to be allegorical and metaphorical with this idea of the powerful white people that essentially own and have control of the magic, and then our black family and black people are like attempting to gain some control of it to protect themselves,
right,
from the kind of the greater the world at large. So it's not just the magic that they have to deal with, like being used against them, but also everything else that's going on, right?
Right, yeah.
As we see in the backdrop of whether it's back to the 1920s with Tulsa or in the Jim Crow South or with the murder of Emmett Till, right? So they are trying to reclaim it, I think, and use it to protect their own. And so we get, by the way, I do want to recommend, this was recommended to us. It's obviously previewed or advertised at the end of most of these episodes. But if you want, look, we're two white guys. You really want to dive deep on Lovecraft Country and hear people get into it and tell you more about what it means, then you should go listen to the Lovecraft Country radio podcast produced by HBO and hosted by one of the writers for Lovecraft Country. Like, just going out on a limb here, they're going to be able to offer a little bit more insight than we can.
Yeah. As a white guy born in the last 33, 34 years, you and I don't have exactly the expertise required to tell you exactly how impactful this show was.
So we can really only speak from our own perspective here. I thought it was...
So everybody who's ignorant and watched it, welcome.
So just to continue down the line, throughout the season, right, we're kind of wondering, we've got the Sons of Ada. We know that the Braithwaites as a whole, this white wizard magic family, racist. They're racists.
Racist.
We hear the N-word used repeatedly, like
they're pretty blatant about it.
Pretty blatant about it. Yeah, exactly. Like we had the what's his face, the guy in episode 1 or 2, just talking about like the natural order of things, which is always coded language for white people are you never want to hear that. Supposed to be above anybody else, essentially. And through the whole time, it's kind of like we're never really sure with Christina. She's sort of helping.
Like, is she a good person?
But she's sort of in it for herself. And she
Does she have a brother?
She has this relationship with Ruby.
Yeah.
Right? Like
where you can't tell, does she love Ruby?
She offers
invulnerability. Is she just using Ruby?
She offers invulnerability to Letty. Like, she's gotten them out of a couple of precarious situations, right? So
but then the why behind it all is always her. For her benefit.
So it's always very self-serving and
which again is allegorical.
Yes, because the undertone there is that even though she is not a vile, out in the open, racist capital
like her dad
R,
was, like her
dad
other
and her
Braithwaite
family,
family
right.
was. That she wipes them all out, so you think, oh, maybe she's different. She's not racist.
But then the means to her end still require her to step on black people
and
basically,
literally kill one
and use them and at the end kill one.
Yeah.
Right. So that was very.
And it ends up all being just about her achieving immortality. She killed her family for that reason, not because she thought they were bad. Or maybe there was even if there was that's the thing. It's like the jump from 2 generations ago, pure racism, to the 2020 version that you get with some people is very, very different. But it's just as detrimental.
Sure.
Like it's just as bad. It's just done in a different way. And that's a lot of what white America struggles with. Because you don't experience that unless you experience that. Like, of course, if somebody tells you, yo, there's a shitload of, like, racist stuff going on that's under the table, you want to hear what those things are.
Yeah.
As a white guy, you don't experience them. So unless you go ask people and have conversations and read enough or educated enough, it's just not something that you're fully aware of.
Right. So, yeah, and at the end, it was kind of like, from our perspective, I was kind of the whole time like, well, I guess Christina's bad. Christina's bad because our main characters and our protagonists don't like her. But in the end, it does like a nice job of kind of framing that for you. And that, like, no, she was not the same as her ancestors, but was still essentially like a piece of that cog.
A part of the
right?
problem.
She's still a part of the problem, still was serving herself like to the detriment of black
she
people.
saw all these people as pawns.
Right.
I mean, she ends up killing Ruby, right? Catching her for trying to trick her and get a piece of her body away to Letty and Tick so that they can use it for their magic, and then she obviously takes her form, tricks the others. It's a crazy, complicated mess at the end. Gia shows up and is a huge piece of the puzzle. Again, seemingly sort of random offshoot of an episode that at the end of it sort of ties in, but then by the end of the season is a big piece of the puzzle. As you said, all these people come together as one to defeat this enemy entity that is attempting to use them and destroy their family in an effort to gain immortality, which, again, there's all kinds of allegories you can draw from all of this. It's just rife left and right. But what a cool, in terms of like storytelling as a concept, what a cool concept that white people have this magic that they utilize, that magic exists in the world, but only white people can access it. And then this show, obviously, with all the historical context tied in, what if that was the case and then black people stole the magic back? And I would even argue that you could say magic in this show is like it's like the American dream. White people have had access to the American dream the entire existence of this country. Black people have not. And in many cases, white people thought that they did when they didn't.
Yeah. I think many interpretations can be had there about what the magic is. I started listening to the Lovecraft Country podcast, just the first 15 minutes from this last that was going to be discussing this finale. And one of the things that they're, let me just pull up their names so
the writers of the show.
I give them credit here.
I may have them on my screen already.
Ashley C. Ford and Shannon Houston. Shannon Houston, I believe, is the one that was a writer on the show.
Yeah, she wrote all 10 episodes, or was one of the writers on all 10 episodes.
So she was talking about how the black people kind of taking back the magic was also kind of a reference to the fact that, like, there are religions that go that predate Christianity by a lot, that were founded by black religions, essentially.
Right. Okay.
And so that kind of that kind of went into it too. And I just got to start thinking about it and went further on the interpretation. And it's just kind of interesting because when you think about like wizards and magic and like this type of show in general, it's very much like a white person thing, right? Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones,
Harry Potter.
Did you say Harry Potter?
Yeah, Harry Potter.
Yeah, like all this, like all these tricks and spells and
Sword in the Stone.
Witches.
Every freaking magic show or movie I have watched since I was a child, it's like all white people. Magic is a weird white people thing.
Yes,
for whatever reason in our culture, and like obviously that was the result of no stories being told for black people with fucking magic in them, which is a problem.
So I mean, yeah, and even on Halloween favorites, like Hocus Pocus, like
Dude.
all this type of stuff is just very anything with magic, wizards, witches,
they're white,
spells, all this type of stuff. It's like very like every once in a while you'll get like a token black voodoo character.
I'm thinking like Samuel L. Jackson in Star Wars. They were like, "Fuck, we need a black Jedi."
I'm thinking about the Pirates of the Caribbean. You know, they've got the one Caribbean woman to come in and be.
It does feel token,
right?
When,
like
when they throw in
a spooky person.
One.
So
it gets weird.
Yeah. So I started thinking about that too. Like this show as a whole, like takes this genre back a little bit as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really cool. I mean, and think about even the very basis of the show, Lovecraft Country, written by this what turned out to be an incredibly racist human being. This stories or whatever it was. And
not Lovecraft was the racist. The author of Lovecraft Country definitely not a racist.
So the book he's hauling around is not written by the racist guy in the show.
Is he hauling? No, he's hauling.
Doesn't he
around...
have the book that says Lovecraft Country? He's like, this is our family's story.
Yes, not written by a racist.
Okay, but Lovecraft and
H.P.
Lovecraftian horror. Lovecraft, that guy was the racist dude who
really,
wrote all these weird essays and shit.
Really, Lovecraftian horror wasn't always necessarily racist either. H.P. Lovecraft was just a racist.
Okay,
and also wrote some stuff that was very racist.
Okay, and to take.
It was a big racist.
So to take a racist guy's style of horror, and then utilize it to make a successful black story on HBO,
right?
But there's very ironic.
And
if irony is the word,
and just
sweet
big,
revenge.
Big shouts to showrunner Misha Green and Shannon Houston and all these
Misha
other.
ever on the pod?
So on the back half of this podcast that I started listening to, Misha pops on too.
I gotta listen to Misha.
Yeah, and I'm sure that like this is a show where I feel like I need more insight, as we've talked about many times, whether it's like the little Easter eggs and references, whether the books they have, Uncle Tom's Cabin, the obviously like 1921 in Tulsa and the murder of Emmett Till are two instances that I am familiar with. Tulsa more recently, so of course Emmett Till is I feel like a super famous one that everybody
at this point, if you're not aware,
knows about or should absolutely know about.
Again, something got mentioned in history class, like in a one sentence and then we moved on. Because I remember the name.
I don't remember if it was high school or college, but we definitely I was taught about Emmett Till for sure.
It's probably the biggest it's the biggest civil rights name in a non-leadership way that we were taught about.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I could just use more info. So I'm definitely going to finish listening to this one about the finale, and then I might have to go back and listen to a couple of the others as well. Especially, I don't think anything has been announced about a follow-up season. Just to get into that big, crazy finale, the final scene, we do lose Tick. And now, this show does involve magic, but...
So not very concerning.
But it does seem like he's dead. And it fulfills what we learned from the book that he's carrying around, which is their family history.
And then the whole time, everybody knows this is going to happen. And he's trying to have to say, like...
Hannah and Hattie, they are talking about how, like he's going to save everybody. Like, it's very much like the fulfillment of a prophecy in a way.
Which would really take away the weight of it if you bring him back next season.
Sacrifice himself. We do it, and it's, we arms out. It's very like Jesus in that moment. Very Christ-like. And
I was trying to think of the word. I almost said Christian, and I was like, that's not... that's not the adjective I'm searching for.
So there does seem to be a lot of evidence. Also, add to that Jonathan Majors is about to be a big movie star as soon as we can have movies again. So it wouldn't be shocking to see him. What?
What's he starring in again? Or what's he?
So obviously he had The Five Bloods and.
Oh man, I keep forgetting that was him.
The big one for him is he's one of the newest, hottest, biggest, baddest Marvel villains. He's going to be a Marvel villain. He's like the new Thanos.
Oh, that's tight. He's going to be is he Kang the Conqueror?
Kang the Conqueror, yes.
Indeed. Wow, look at me Googling away. Just crushing it.
Kang. Does Kang. Is Kang not the name of the little brain in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon? You know, the brain that like sits in the little the robot body?
All I can think of is Liu Kang, Raiden, Johnny Cage, Scorpion. It's Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat.
So it seems like we're losing Tick. You mentioned Jiha. She comes into play. She gets to use her nine tails again, this time for good.
Really uses them.
You mentioned one thing that we texted about. You were like, where did Dee get the Terminator arm?
Oh, yeah.
As soon as she chokes out Christina, I looked at Laura and I was like, wait, what?
Where did Dee get the Terminator
arm? Where did the arm come from?
But
like Hippolyta made her the arm.
So when Hippolyta opens that door and you hear the mechanical noises, I thought she was taking her to go fucks with the thing again.
Yes, I thought that was the orrery.
Yeah. I didn't know she had in there, like she had built her this thing, then she straps it straight.
Yes.
Clearly that's the arm noise that she's hearing and she's looking at.
Yeah.
And that's that. I got to say, that freaking robot arm, main reason I'm confident we get a season 2.
Okay.
Come on, bro. They left these characters in such cool places to play with.
Yeah.
Like, the little girl has a goddamn robot arm. What year is it? How is she going to get away with this? Like, if a kid was wandering the street right now with a robot arm, I'd be like, holy shit, the future is now. This is Jim Crow America. She's got a robot arm. What are they going to do with this?
I mean, they could do a spin-off and just have a second season be about, like, Aretha Blue and Dee, right?
Pretty easily.
At the end, Hippolyta's kind of the biggest badass of the whole show.
She has incredible blue hair.
And
X-Men.
looks awesome with the blue hair and knows everything because she spent 200 years in the other worlds because it's Robot Month and we're back in the multiverse also with this show. I forgot to mention that.
Oh my God. When the second they were like, well, Tick tried to be like, look, there's lots of timelines. Surely in this one I'll be fine when he knew damn well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that comes up a bunch of times. And you're exactly right. Hippolyta, far and away the wisest, most powerful character on the show, and it's not close.
Yeah.
She got to go live infinite lifetimes and infinite timelines.
Pretty much. Spent 200 whole years on one of those worlds.
It's crazy shit.
Also, I was wrong. It's the Ninja Turtles supervillain is Krang. So I was close.
The fact that you even remembered the brain guy is crazy to me. I only remember Shredder, and then of course the
Shredder. There's obviously Shredder. He's the villain, the main villain.
Yeah. When my little brother was born, this is weird. On that day, you know how you're an only child. You never had to endure this pain. When you have another sibling come in, it's fucked. You lose all the attention. Your whole life's ruined. Mm-hmm. And my grandma knew this. Everybody knows this. When you're the older kid, you got to get some kind of toy or some shit to make you feel better when your sibling is born. I got a Shredder toy. Grandma walked into the house. I remember she handed me the Shredder, and I was like, it was worth it for that little shit to come into the world for me to achieve this Shredder toy. Thank you, Grandma.
Look, here is...
Love you, Sam.
Krang, he's just a brain, remember?
Yeah, he's in a guy's tummy.
He's in a yeah.
This guy, he runs that guy, right? He tells that guy what to do for him.
Yeah, that's his body. That's his physical form. I do need to show you that you can get a Krang satin jacket here.
Oh, look at that! You could be Krang for Halloween.
You could be Krang for Halloween with this cool satin jacket.
Hey, does that say $130?
It does. Yeah, it's a satin jacket.
Who would pay $130 for, if you're not watching on youtube.com/BolandMedia, you're missing out on what is perhaps the most overpriced jacket I've ever seen.
I mean, it seems like a one-time wear.
It really does.
Can't imagine just walking around stunting in your Krang varsity jacket.
Yeah, you can't put up a picture of that on Instagram and like 3 weeks from now put up another picture of that on Instagram.
No.
That's not going to fly.
You got one shot.
People are going to be like, what's the deal with Barrett in the Krang jacket? I thought he knew fashion. He has Club Cool. What is this Krang jacket? Maybe this is the new way of Krang.
Yeah.
We just invent. Anyway.
#Krang.
Lovecraft Country Season 1, for me, ended up being a massive success, even with a couple of moments where, as Whitey, I was confused or didn't fully understand. And I'm stoked on what they were able to accomplish from a storytelling standpoint, from a historical context standpoint, like all of the allegories and the different metaphors, and I mean, it was just incredibly entertaining from week to week. You never really knew what you were going to get. until the final two when you knew it was going to have to sort of unravel or come together. And then when it did, it was great. It was highly entertaining, moving, at times insanely painful to watch. It had very few moments of humor, I will say. Almost completely void of levity. Mm-hmm. But we did have a Letty, obviously not hard on the eyes. That helped with the lack of jokes. And then, just a sea of characters to pick from. It's sort of to the point where, yeah, I was bummed about Tick, but also, like, we're not short on characters here. I mean...
if they want to continue.
Yeah, we've got plenty of people to mess with. And
as we saw, when Letty and Tick opened, they unbound the Book of Names. By the way, that was a little thing, like they were saying that Hannah, the great-great-grandmother that's standing in the doorframe in the fire of the house that Tick is, always seeing but doesn't get to talk to until this final episode, like, she bound the book. That was her way of protecting. She thought she was taking the book, binding it, never
keeping
to be
everybody
used
safe.
Again.
Right.
And that's what the ancestors are kind of like saying to Letty is like, no, y'all got to use this.
Right.
Learn from her mistakes. You can use this for protection. You should use this.
I think, doesn't she even end up saying it, the ghost? Or whatever.
Hannah
doesn't Hannah
oldest ghost?
I
maybe?
think
yeah.
She even ends up being like, you're going to need to open this up. I think she tells her how. Like, I locked it with this fucking phrase or what. I don't remember. Anyway, there was so much crazy magic stuff.
Yes. In multiple generations with Hannah, Hattie, Dora, Tick, and now Letty. So there was a lot to keep track of there. But they can visit the ancestral plane, is what we learned. So Tick is probably just hanging out there with the ancestors.
Which would be a way less demanding role for him to kind of have to pop in once in a while in a sort of alligator Abe Lincoln Chubbs type scenario from, again, to reference Happy Gilmore, where he just has to be a spirit in the sky that helps guide and advise these other people.
Yeah. So who knows? But there's certainly a lot of different ways they could go with this.
I would also be totally cool if they were like, deuces.
Yeah.
We did it.
Same.
Peace.
And like you said, like I when this show, I would just say it's like they were running hurdles, right? And they were super fast. They were, beating everybody.
Letty quick.
And like track star Letty. And every once in a while, they would I thought they kind of hit one,
Yeah.
and knocked the hurdle over.
That's how I felt, yeah.
But it didn't stop them from continuing to run very fast. So, like you said, unbelievable accomplishment. The show was, every single episode, visually stunning and great to look at. And I think that with the last two episodes, they really did tie up the story very well. And I thought that it was overall a successful season, and it was a good one to talk about, a good one to learn from, for sure.
I'm betting they will get some type of Emmy love. In terms of acting, I don't know if they're going to get love there, but like in the writing and in the cinematography department, I would think they would get some attention based on what they were able to pull off.
I think that's probably right.
With the monsters and the magic. I liked sort of the kitschy way they did some things too, like with the portal. Like the first time you see Tick jump through it, you're like, well, that was fucking comical. It's like almost the only time I laughed in the entire season, I think, because he's just like, "Why?" and just like throws himself in there. But there were elements of it that was stylistically felt old school. Like they brought you like it was super advanced.
At least they didn't do like the Austin Powers one where he just like jumps on the spiral and then like spins.
Fuck Austin Powers is good, man. Yeah, it's the same as you said, though. It ended up being something that I didn't only feel like it was just a good story. It was impactful, and it was meaningful, and it was so different than anything that I've seen, that Whitey has seen. And for that, I'm very thankful. And like we just said, if they do another season, I'm all in. If they said that was it, I'm also happy with the way that they ended it.
Same.
There is no I needed more of this or that. I feel complete in what we got. So, great show. Glad we went in on this one together, Clam Fam. Hope you enjoyed as much as we did. Let us hear your thoughts, your feedback on Lovecraft Country, the penultimate and the finale on social media. Barrett, anything else you wanted to add before we move on?
Well, before we wrap up the podcast here, I did want to remind everybody that, by the way, perfectly splendid final scene to end on there with Lovecraft, with the giant Lovecraft multi-teeth Demogorgon monster screaming at the moon. Did you happen to notice that that one was black and the other one was white?
Yeah, there's the monsters. There's a race war going on with the monsters.
We're also
D, by the way.
Yeah.
far and away the coolest character on this show by the end. That scene, so she's got one of these things now in a robot arm?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Just Urethra Blue. Just spin that off. Do the comic book spin off her and her mom.
Sure.
You know.
Like, I don't think any 8-year-olds watch this show, but if they did, that little girl's an idol. Like an icon now.
So all very fitting for Creepy Month. And Thursday is good. It's time for movie club, is what it is. So I just
movie club.
We got to pick a movie here.
A scary movie?
A creepy movie at the very least.
Okay, it should probably at least be creepy.
So
holler at us with ideas. Is that what you're saying?
I think I'll try to put out some sort of poll on the Discord, but then I'll also do a check out the Twitter. We might
Twitter machine.
Seek a poll there as well. Conduct a poll there as well, just to see. Obviously, I want to know what the Cord is thinking.
You want to see the data,
but I also want to know what the overall what the GP is thinking.
What the Clam Fam's thinking,
and just the overall Clam Fam.
Sure, all of you listening, you're the Clam Fam. If you didn't know,
because you never know. Maybe I say that we're going to do movie XYZ. And that person says, well, you know what? I got to join the movie club on patreon.com/oystersclaimscockles. And then maybe they're like, oh, man, I got to hear these phone calls. So I'll join the wiretappers.
Just one wiretapper.
So
I hope there's more than one now. If we're still making that joke for one guy, it's really funny. And he or she has to just be fucking rolling in it, enjoying life.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to support the show and get more OCC ad-free, that's the place you can go. Patreon.com/oystersclamscockles. Barrett and I do 4 additional episodes every month. If you're in the Mollusk Militia, you get all 4. If you're in the Crustacean Nation, you get 3 of those. And that's just a $5 minimum pledge each month to support Oysters, Clams, and Cockles to keep the show growing and moving in the right direction, and also to get more ad-free OCC in exchange. Just $5, 3 episodes, or go above and beyond. Join the Mollusk Militia. Get that 4th and final episode, which every month is a Hotline Call extravaganza. We also have a movie club tier if you just want to join us for movie club every month, where Barrett and I announce and then watch one movie and do a podcast discussing it. We have the Wiretapper tier for people who want to hear the Mollusk Militia exclusive hotline but don't want to be in the Mollusk Militia for some reason. We've got all kinds of options on patreon.com/oystersclamscockles for you to get more OCC, so go do it. Support us, and Clam Fam for life. Patreon, patreon.com/oystersclamscockles. Follow us on social media for updates on the best in TV and film. On Instagram @oystersclamscockles. Or on Twitter @clamsandcockles and facebook.com/oystersclamscockles. I will note, 2020 was and has been utterly chaotic for everyone in the entire world. On the front half of it, I had to, and Barrett, both of us actually, were at the same company for a very extended period of time. We both had to go find our separate career paths, basically, as a result of that company ceasing to exist. And I had to start up Bolin Media, keep OCC going, get divorced, and try to endure the pandemic at the same time. So our social media feeds suffered as a result. That's what I'm saying. That is going to change in the coming weeks and months. So I appreciate y'all bearing with us, all of our followers on social media. I know it hasn't been as exciting as it was in years past. 2020 was a shit show. I'm just now pulling my head out of my ass. So I appreciate y'all bigly. Instagram @oystersclamscockles, Twitter @clamsandcockles, facebook.com/oystersclamscockles, and then you can follow me, Ross Bolin, on my personal social media feeds, which no amount of pandemic or divorce or any type of disaster can keep me from updating on a daily basis. @WRBolin, WRBOLEN on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. I would also recommend you listen to the Ross Bolin podcast, my mental health, wellness, comedy, humor, history, news, sports, music, animals, and more show, available wherever you listen to Oysters, Clams, and Cockles. That's the Ross Bolin podcast, also brought to you by Bolin Media, hosted by myself and Mr. Chris Colson. Barrett, where can we follow you on social media and hear more of your voice?
@Barrett Dudley, Instagram and Twitter. Check out the Club Cool podcast. Here's the thing about the Club Cool podcast. People are getting on there and they are liking it, they are subscribing it, and they are leaving reviews, and most of the reviews are saying that this podcast is perfectly splendid. So please go follow it.
One more, just had to do it.
And just see if you also agree that it is perfectly splendid.
Perfectly splendid. It's just perfectly. And they play with it. At one point, they cut away from her. She's like, it's just perfectly. And then they don't even make you hear the second half because they know it's funny. And that's when I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in with Bly Manor. Billy Costa, Lyra. We'll be back with, what's it called? Where's the Clampstone, people, listen
Next
up.
Week, are we
on
saddling
my
up?
mother's,
are we getting on our saddles,
We're
Ross?
back. On God, all right? The freaking baseball season's over. Nobody cares about the Texans. The basketball season's over. The sports are gone. This is all I've got now is to retreat back to that old Clampstone ranch. Just
Boy, we are going to
stare up at that big sky.
Sit on those stallions of ours. Just look up at those stars.
That's a man-made horse noise.
Because it's a big sky country.
I do a pretty good horse.
Let's see. We've wrapped up the boys. We've wrapped up Lovecraft Country.
We're just destroying everything we watch.
So
in a good light.
Also, stay tuned for movie club, obviously.
And then just everybody finish the third day by next week, so I can talk about the finale.
But
Thanks.
then
everybody, don't.
We'll see. We'll have some other stuff to talk about too. Probably. I don't know. Maybe a little bit of Val. Maybe a little bit of Bly Manor.
Well, what about the third day?
Maybe I'll give it a shot. I'm going to be honest with you.
You don't
something
have
about
the
the
time
show
for
is
the third
something
day.
about the show is not calling to me.
Okay, well, it's a Ross show for sure in that way.
Like I don't know. There's just something that's not grabbing me necessarily.
Did you watch Lost?
No.
See, it's like a specific fucking thing. I don't know what it is, but if we had like a Ross column and a Barrett column and the things that would fall under each, and like Fast and Furious would be in your column, and then whatever the fuck this is, like weird supernatural stories with no explanation. I don't know. Whatever that is, it would fall under my box. I'm not obviously forcing Barrett to watch the third day. It's one that I picked up randomly,
We'll see.
burned through very quickly. I will just say, after I've watched the finale, we will likely do a little thing where I talk about it a little bit and try to be spoiler-free and say skip forward 30 seconds or whatever if you don't want to hear this. But yes, we will be returning to Clampstone Ranch next week. Watch Yellowstone. Some point of Season 2 we will discuss up till. Probably at least episode 3, possibly 5, depends. I don't have a whole lot going on this weekend. In all likelihood, I'm going to sit on the couch with my mom and watch Yellowstone for the majority of it. So we'll see y'all next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you love Lovecraft Country. Look forward to Yellowstone coverage. Look forward to talking about whatever we decide for Movie Club on Patreon this week as well. Enjoy the rest of Creepy Month. Next week is Halloween. Next week will be the only episode, the final episode you hear from us before #Creepy Day. Otherwise known as Halloween. And until then, until our next helping, goodbye, friends.